Hello, everyone. And yes, it is time to go over this question, which I think many thought would be coming to the fore soon enough. Max winning his 42nd race and overtaking Ayrton Senna. As some of you that know me know that I told Max Verstappen after the Austrian Grand Prix in 2015, now 8 years ago tonight, that I thought his ceiling was Senna. And people thought I was nuts back in 2015. We are now at a point where that prediction might be underdone. It might be underdone, but there's a lot to look at here. And Max knows it, which is why he doesn't get emotional about tying Senna or beating Senna. He knows it's very hard to really grasp all the data together, put it all together, look at it in the correct light. We're going to try to do that here. So the first thing I want people to realize about what Max Verstappen is doing right now is how unprecedented this run is, how far back in history we have to go to find a run like this. And let's just quickly go over every race, because I'm someone that always changes actually what happened in real life, which is how I can prove to you that I think Jim Clark was the greatest driver of all time, even though statistically you wouldn't even put him in the top 10 in a lot of cases. But if you go sift through the data and change bad luck and good luck, you do find out that many top drivers who feel Jim Clark was the greatest, actually, it comes out that way. The eye test was right. So here's the run that Max is on. If we go from Bahrain in 2020, when he had a car that could win a race, certainly couldn't win a championship, Bahrain all the way down. Let's just go through it. Bahrain, he gets second. Sakir Grand Prix, the race that George Russell should have won twice. Not only once, he should have won it twice. He was crashed out with Leclerc right there at the top of the track, turn 4. So that one doesn't count as a start. But he certainly could have got a podium because he just finished second the week before. That was during COVID. They kept staying at the Bahrain track. So could have got a podium, but that doesn't count as a start. Next race, Abu Dhabi, he wins it. So he's got a second and a first. Now we go into the so-loved 2021 season. Bahrain, I'm sorry, that's a first for Max. And I go over this in my long video about the 2021 season. Hamilton went over that turn 4, the outside of the turn 4, exit of turn 4. What was it, 27 times? Something ridiculous, where he gained almost a second during the whole race. Then Max does it to pass him, and they push him back. No. So he gets the win there. Imola, of course, he won. Portuguese, he gets second. Spanish, he gets second. Monaco, he won. Azerbaijan, of course, he would have won. Everybody knows that. The tire blew. The only thing is Max Verstappen fans have to remember that Lewis Hamilton would have gotten second. He was in third at the time of the crash. He would have passed Perez. He would have finished second. So if you're going to give Max the win in Azerbaijan 2021, make sure you give Hamilton second, because he finished out of the race. The Magic Brakes race. French, he won, passing Hamilton with 2 laps to go. Styrian, he won. Austrian, he won. The British Sprint, he won. The British race, he gets knocked out by Hamilton. I actually didn't want Hamilton to get a penalty, even though it's 100% was Hamilton's fault. They were racing. I had no problem with it not even being a penalty, but still, we certainly can't count Max as a start there. Hamilton was going for that pass because he saw what happened in the sprint race. If I don't get him by cops, it's over. So he probably would have won that race, or at least got second, but it doesn't count as a start. Hungarian Grand Prix, of course, he gets crashed out with everybody else and was able to continue, but the car was a mess. He was fighting with Haas's in that race. So that one doesn't count as a start. Belgium Grand Prix, he won. That was that wacky race. Dutch, of course, he won. The Italian Sprint, he was second. The Italian Grand Prix is where people may fight me on this one. But regardless of what you think of the crash, I think it was absolutely Hamilton's fault. It was the tightest corner in the calendar of Formula One, and Hamilton didn't give any room. But the fact is, the only reason Max was that far back was because of a bad pit stop by Red Bull. So both the bad pit stop and the fact that I think that the accident at the very least was 50-50. We don't really know what should have happened in that race. So that ain't counting as a start either. But he probably would have finished at least third, would have got on the podium, more likely second had he continued on. So because I think he would have finished second, it's a no start. Russian, he got second. That was that crazy rain race. Turkish, second. USA, he won. Mexican, he won. Brazilian Sprint, second. Well, that was a bad strategy calling the tires by Red Bull and him. Brazilian, he got second. The Brazilian Sprint, he got second. Brazilian race, he got second. Qatar, he got second. Saudi Arabia, he got second. And, of course, Abu Dhabi, he gets second. Hamilton obviously deserved the win in that race, no question. But as you can see by the whole championship, Max should have won that championship by about 60, 70, even 80 points. It should not have been such a controversial race. Max easily won the 2021 championship. But so this is the run he's on. Look, first, second. Now we go into 2022, where again, the Red Bull is not a dominant car. I'm sick of people saying the Red Bull was a dominant car in 2022. No, it wasn't. It's a dominant car in 2023. In 2022, he didn't even have the most poles. If your car doesn't have the most poles, you're not being counted as a dominant. And Ferrari was always right there with him. It was just Ferrari was stupid. But that doesn't mean Red Bull's dominant. That's just because Ferrari's stupid. In the same way in the 2017 season, I don't count Vettel for not being able to keep up with Hamilton, which should have been a great championship. It was Ferrari being stupid. Vettel not driving well enough, that was the 2018 season. 2017 was more on Ferrari, and that's kind of the case of 2022. The Red Bull was not a dominant car, I would say, 2022. 2023, yes. Bahrain, I give him second. Of course, his car broke on the final laps. He was easily going to get second to Leclerc. Saudi Arabia, he wins. Australian, once again, car breaks towards the end of the race. He definitely would have finished second behind Leclerc. Imola Sprint, he won. Imola, he won. Miami, he won. The Spanish, Leclerc's car broke. He should have won the race. So I take away a win from Max here. He actually finished second, not first. Monaco, third. And look, that's the first time he has actually finished not in first or second in this run. Was his third at Monaco. But still a podium. Azerbaijan, Leclerc's car broke again. It's questionable if Leclerc would have won that one, though. Max was definitely faster. So even though Max won in real life, I think he still deserves the win in this situation. Canada, he wins. British, no start. That was a complicated one. He was leading at the beginning, made that great pass on Sainz, and then going to go off and win the race. And then that damage happened. He seems to have bad luck at the British Grand Prix. Maybe this will happen next week. But he had that debris go under and cause all kinds of problems with the car. He had to come into the pit, and the rest of the race, his car just was not fast. So we're not going to count that as a start because we have no idea. He probably would have won the race, very likely. And then Ferrari screwed up that strategy. Oh, God. The Austrian sprint, he wins that. Now, the Austrian race, he finished third. He actually finished second in real life, but Carlos Sainz's car broke down. He would have finished second. So I give Max third. I take away his second place. So there's another third. Oh, he's fallen off. He got 2/3. French Grand Prix, he wins. Hungarian, he wins. Belgian, he wins. Dutch, he wins. Italy, he wins. Now, Singapore, I'm going to give him, not a great finish here, even though, once again, he was looking for pole and looking to win the championship, but it's like Red Bull wanted him to win in Japan next week because of the Honda connection. It does feel like Red Bull was doing something to make him not do well in that race. Max was probably going to get pole. The team didn't give him enough fuel. Like, what a massive mistake. So he ends up starting 7th, and then during the race, he comes from 12th, really, going all the way to 3rd, and then he goes for a pass on Norris, and there's a bump that shouldn't be there on the track, and he screws up the braking, has to come in, changes the whole, not a great race. But really, it was all from many things that were not his fault. There shouldn't have been a bump randomly there, although you walk the track, you do know that. But it's starting with the fact that he probably should have got pole or second from the beginning of the race, and Red Bull screwed that up. So that's his first non-first or second or podium. There's too many things to guess on, so we'll say, okay, fine. Max does not get a podium or first or second in that Singapore Grand Prix. Fine. Japanese Grand Prix wins. US he wins. Mexican he wins. The Brazilian sprint team put him on the medium tires. They shouldn't have done that. I don't know why they did that. Only one other driver did that in the whole field. So that didn't help him. He finishes 4th. But he did hold the lead for 2/3 of that sprint. People forget. George Russell wins. Not Hamilton, but George Russell finally wins, and still the only Mercedes to win the past 2 years in that sprint and the race. Same thing. Now you have, in the race, finishes 6th because he has a collision with Lewis. Again, I thought that was Lewis's fault. I didn't think it was even really questionable, but people, of course, will question it. There's a lot in that race between the strategy, the car, that accident with Hamilton. So instead of trying to figure it out, I'm not going to call it a no start because the accident still was 50-50-ish. So we'll give him a 6 there. So look, 2 races in a row he didn't finish. Oh, no. Didn't finish on the podium. But then wins Abu Dhabi. The next season, wins Bahrain, wins Saudi Arabia because... his engine went in qualifying, and what did he start? 15th? Yeah, he started 15th and comes all the way to second, finishes 5 seconds behind Perez. Had he started second or first, but especially second and third, he would have won easily. So he gets the win in my book in Saudi Arabia. He wins the Australian Grand Prix. Azerbaijan, not that great of a race. Third, but still on the podium. But third is bad for Max. Very bad. Look how many thirds he has. Very few. In the Azerbaijan sprint, finishes second in Azerbaijan. Couldn't beat Perez. Perez, just the way he drives, he's very much a street circuit driver. And then wins Miami, wins Monaco, wins the Spanish Grand Prix, wins Canadian, wins the Austrian sprint yesterday, and today wins the Austrian Grand Prix. So now, We have to put all of these things together, this run, and see how good it is. Okay, here is the run in detail. 2 starts, 19 starts, 21 starts, 9 starts. So we've got 51 starts now. That's where we're at in this whole run. 51 starts and 59 starts if you count the sprints. He's won 34 of those 51 and 38 of 59 when you count the sprints. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. We're going to match that with other people to really see where he's matching up. First or second, 47 of 51. 53 of 59 with the sprints. This is impossibly good. Impossibly good, but he's doing it. Podiums, 49 of 51, 55 of 59 with the sprints. The poles, 26 of 53. Pretty much half the races he's getting poles. Fastest laps, 17 of 51, which is fine, especially in this era where it's a bit more convoluted of how you get fastest laps. Hat tricks, 7 of 51. Doesn't sound all that great, but again, we'll look at everybody else and give you an idea. Grand Slams, 3 of 51. That's tremendous. He probably should have had one today. Perfect races, that's for, to me, when you win by a lap or win by 2 minutes, because drivers used to do that. Of course, the 2 titles he's had the chance to win, he has won them. So now we're going to take this and we're going to put it against all these other drivers and see where Max lines up. So let's go back to Lewis Hamilton's second run. This is Silverstone 2018 through the 2021 season. Lewis Hamilton actually has 2 phenomenal runs that are worthy of this list. He's the only driver with that. He's had a long career and has had a dominant car more than anyone else in history. So you would think he would have 2 runs. If you look at this, I mean, it's not even close. Wins 35 of 70 versus 34 of 51. First to seconds, 52 of 70 versus 47 of 51. I mean, Max destroys this. 29 poles out of 70, 26 of 53. At least that's similar. Hat tricks, 5 of 70 versus 7 of 51. But especially the wins in first and seconds and podiums. I mean, this is total destruction. So let's move on to a better run by Lewis Hamilton. And that is 2014 through Bahrain in 2017. 32 of 48 wins versus 34 of 51 wins. Not better. First to second, 47 of 58, 47 of 51. Podiums, 54 of 58, 49 of 51 for Max. So again, Max is better here. 20 fastest laps, 59, 17 of 51. But again, Max is slightly better than Hamilton, but most of this is in a completely dominant car. In fact, pretty much all of it is in a totally dominant car. 2017 at least was tied with Ferrari. In this, only 9 of these starts are in a dominant car for Max Verstappen, and he's still, his car was just good enough to win the championship and win races. He's got better stats than Hamilton when he had a totally dominant car, and a teammate in Rosberg who was good, but not that great, and neither is Perez. But so similar teammates. Grand Slams 358, 351, they're similar there. Okay, let's go on to a better run. How about Sebastian Vettel's run? 2010 Singapore through the 2013 season. This is where Vettel was at his absolute peak, right? It seemed impossible. He had so many runs of dominance inside this, especially 2011 and 2013, right? He had 2 seasons, almost 40 races in a totally dominant car. But look at this, 34 wins for Vettel, 34 wins for Verstappen, but Vettel needed 10 more races to do it. First or second, 44 of 61. Max, 47 of 51. Podiums, 49 of 61. Max has 49 podiums in 10 less races. Poles, 28 of 63. Max has 26 of 53. Still doing better. Fastest lap, 16 of 62. Max, 17 of 51. So in many less races, like 30 less races in a dominant car, Verstappen is still solidly better than Vettel at his best. Hat trick, 7 of 61. Max, 7 of 51. Again, 10 less races. Grand Slams, 4 of 61. Max has had 3 of 51. Vettel won all 3 of the championships that he could have won, because 2010 we're only talking about a couple of races, 5 races in 2010. But he won the 11, 12, 13. Well, Max is likely to win this year. He's probably going to win his 3 out of 3. So we need a better run, guys, to see where is Max Verstappen shaping up. Okay, so let's go to Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher, Malaysia 1999 through 2004. This is peak Michael Schumacher. Can Max rank up with Michael Schumacher? I mean, he was impossibly dominant, we thought back in those days. Well, here it is. The end of 1999 through 2004 when he came back from the injury that he suffered in the British Grand Prix in 1999. Malaysia, those 2 races all the way through 2004. 49 wins of 84. 34 wins of 51. I mean, the way it's going, he's going to be at 49 wins by the beginning of next year, even if Red Bull isn't totally dominant next year. First to second, 64 of 84, 47 of 51. Again, right there. And Schumacher had 2002 and 2004 were as dominant as a car as you've ever seen. Poles, 42 of 87. Well, 26 of 53. Do you think Max can pip up 16 more poles in the next 34 races? Yeah, that's what he's on pace for, right? It's about half. 29 fastest laps of 84, 17 fastest laps of 51. I mean, it's all very similar. 14 hat tricks out of 84, 7 of 51. Schumacher's got him there. 3 Grand Slams in 84 races, but Max has had 3 Grand Slams in 51 races. Of course, Schumacher won all 5 of those championships. So this is much more comfortable. What Max Verstappen is doing right now in the past 51 races, 59 if you count the sprints, is absolutely right in line with what Michael Schumacher was doing during his greatest run of dominance. That's how good this is. And again, 17 races, 18 races, that's 35 races in a totally dominant car. Max has only had 9, if you want to count a couple of races last year, but you really got to go season by season. But certainly not as much as Schumacher's had a totally dominant car. So let's go better. Let's go to Senna. And here's where we're at. Is he as good as Senna? Senna, we're looking at his greatest run was the 88 season, 89 season, of course, 90-91. Just all 4 of those seasons. That was 59 races. So now we're getting very similar numbers, right? 59 races to 51 races that we're looking at for Max. And again, 32 of these races were in an incredibly dominant car. 88 and 89 for McLaren was unbelievably dominant. Now, he had a historic teammate, so that's a little different. Prost is an all-time driver. It was a bit harder for Senna to get this to happen and get these stats. But nonetheless, he's had 32 races in more than half of these 59 races are in a dominant car. Or only 20% of these are in a dominant car. And still, 31 wins to 59 versus 34 wins to 51. He's got more wins and less starts than Senna does. And if you count the sprints, 38 of 59. So there you go. First to second, 40 of 59. Okay, how about Max? 47 of 51. 7 more with 8 less races. Incredible. Better than Senna. Podiums, 47 of 59. 49 of 51. And yes, for those asking, I have redone all of Senna's data for bad luck and everything else. He certainly wins the Japanese Grand Prix in 1989. I've got it here. You can see it. First Canada, second in Portugal, first in Japan in 1989. 1991, second in British, fourth in German, and first in Japanese Grand Prix. So, because he gave that win to Gerhard Berger, if you remember. So I've redid, all Senna stats as I did with Max. And I'm a Senna fan. So this is all true here. And he's got him 47 of 59 on podiums, 49 to 51. So in terms of finishing the race, he is doing what you're watching right now. Forget the history of Senna, and I got to go watch Senna. And you all should study every race of Senna's career if you're a Formula One fan. But what Max is doing right now is better than that. It's actually better. Poles, sure, Senna's the greatest, quickest driver of all time, greatest qualifier of all time. Anybody would tell you that. You don't even need to look at the stats. 44 of 64 versus 26 of 53. Okay, well, he's got him there. Fastest laps, Senna wasn't a real fastest laps guy. 10 of 62 versus 17 of 51, so Max has got him again. Hat trick, 6 of 59. Max has got 7 of 51. He's got him. Grand Slams, 3 of 59. Well, Max has got 3 in his 51. Senna won all 4 championships under my data, 88, 89, 90, and 91. He wins 89. And Max, again, likely will win this championship, winning all the championships he could in this data set. So he is higher peak right now than Senna's peak. This is Senna's peak. You'll never find anything better than that run. And Max is outdoing it. There's other factors involved that you'd have to talk about, but you technically, just based on this, at least in terms of peak, yes, Max is better than Senna. And we don't get to see Max really defend and attack enough. You saw a little bit of it in the sprint race with Perez, but we're forgetting that Max's greatest strength is his passing and defending. We're just watching his kind of Jim Clark, Alain Prost style driving, Hamilton style driving, where he's keeping the tires from going off too soon, managing the car. But that's not his greatest trait. His greatest trait was how aggressive he was, to where many people were like, he's too aggressive. I never thought he was too aggressive. Even his rookie season, I'm like, he's a racing driver. That's how you could tell. It's like, this guy's like Senna. So let's go further. Let's find an even better run and see if we can find someone that's not been on a better run. Well, this may be it. Fangio. From France 1953 through the 1957 season. Again, I've redid all these stats with Fangio because there's a lot of luck involved back then, cars breaking down. Then you jump into another car. I'm not counting that. So we have 30 starts for Fangio in this run. Of course, he won all 4 championships in these 4 full seasons, and we're taking 5 starts from 1953. Won all the championships, and also in 3 different cars. Incredible. 3 different cars. He did all this. He won 19 of 30. I mean, that's really something. 19 to 30. 26 of 30 first or second. 27 of 30 podiums. 19 of 33 poles. This is, look, 14 of 33 fastest laps. 5 hat tricks of 30, though, kind of is in line with Max's 7 of 51. But this is harder to line up just because the eras are so different, the 50s versus the 2020s. But you can. And look, 19 of 30, 34 of 51. I mean, it's similar. 26 of 30, 47 of 51. I mean, Max is better in this case, 49 of 51 versus 27 of 30 podiums. But Fangio winning in different cars, it's incredible. And really, he only had 5 starts that were truly in a dominant car. I'd say his 55 Mercedes was truly dominant. Ferrari in 56 and the Maserati in 57 were, I wouldn't say totally dominant. So this is more in line. You're seeing something that's in line with what Fangio did in the mid-50s, is what Verstappen's doing right now. And just to give you 2 more runs that were actually better. Alberto Ascari, which we saw everybody looking at the laps led records. Well, who was number 1? 305 laps. That was Alberto Ascari in his incredible run of 52 and 53. If I take the end of 1951 and then 52 and 53, this is when Ascari was at his best. He won 14 of 19 races, 16 of 19 first or second, 17 of 19 podium. Those are, Max has got him, actually. He's only been 2 times off the podium in these 51 races. But in terms of wins, 14 of 19, that's just insane. 13 poles of 20, obviously way better than Max's 26 of 53. Fastest laps, 10 of 20. Max 17 of 51. Hat tricks, 8 hat tricks of 19. My goodness. And 6 Grand Slams out of 19 races. Also 3 perfect races where he won by 2 minutes and had pole and had fastest lap and led every lap. 3 of those in these 19 races. Of course, totally dominated those championships. Yes, 14 of those 19 races were in a totally dominant car, but still, this is, when you talk about top runs, this is where it comes from. And then we're going to look at Jim Clark. Yet another area where Jim Clark just comes out on top and makes you rethink everything you know about basic statistics of who has the most wins, who has the most poles. If you're just getting into sports, getting into Formula One, the plain statistics don't tell you the story. Jim Clark, from Belgium 1962 through 1965, 26 starts we go on. 21 times he won out of those 26 races. 23 out of 26 times he came in first or second, 24 to 26 podiums. Poles, 23 of 34. 20 fastest laps out of 33 chances. 10 of 26 in hat tricks. 10 of 26. That's mind-numbing. 10 of 26 times. 9 of them, maybe the most incredible stat we'll go over today, 9 Grand Slams in those 26 races. And 1 perfect race. He didn't win the 64 championship. We could do a whole video on that season. But of course, see, these are all the changes. First in Monaco in 63, second in Spa in 64, first in Mexico in 64. No start at Monaco, France, Germany, Austria, Italy, or the USA. It's why I say, wait a minute, he only has 4 starts in 1964. Yeah, because there was terrible luck and stupid things that happened in 1964. He didn't win that championship, but, he certainly didn't have the car to do it. And the only season I'd really say is dominant was 63. Lotus was dominant. But 65, that's kind of questionable if you totally call that a dominant car. And he won all 6 starts that I count him for. But even so, when you look at this, 23 of 26, he missed out on 3 first or seconds. Well, Max has only missed out on 4 in 51 races, double the amount of races. And podiums 24, 26, he missed out on 2. Well, Max has only missed out on 2 in 51 races. So in terms of finishing first or second or podiums, no one in the history of racing any kind of IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula One has ever seen anything like we're seeing right now. Maybe Valentino Rossi and Agostini in MotoGP, actually. There'd be runs that were this good. But certainly in Formula One, we're never seeing anything. Max has dominated these two categories, when getting first or second or podiums. Wins, yes, Jim Clark, Ascari, and Fangio got him a little bit. Totally different eras, other circumstances. So that's how good this run is. You have to go to those drivers. You go past Senna. He's got Senna in terms of peak. But let's look at other aspects. And side note, I should remind everyone that what Max did last year in Hungarian Grand Prix, Belgian Grand Prix, Dutch Grand Prix, and Italian Grand Prix was the greatest run of 4 races in a row, coming from back in the field to win. Bruce McLaren, last race of 59, the first 2 of 1960, started 10th one, started 13th one, started 11th one. And Prost in 1990 had 3 races. He started 13th one, started 4th one, started 5th one. I've looked everywhere in Formula One history to find any 3 or 4 or 5 races, but just 3 where drivers started far back and won the race. And what Max did last year, starting 10th in Hungary, won the race. Started 13th in Spa, won the race. Started on pole and won the race. But then the next race started 7th and won the race. That was, just incredible. And that goes to show, again, his passing ability, which I wish he would start and last every race. It'd be so much more fun. Maybe he'll start doing that just for fun. So here are the most important points that you have to make when you're talking about comparing drivers, is throw all their stats into 3 categories of seasons with a car capable of winning races but not championships, statistics in seasons with arguably the best car, capable of winning races and championships but not dominant, and then seasons with a totally dominant car. You have to separate all their stats into these 3 categories. And if we just look at Verstappen versus Senna, let's look here. Statistics in seasons with arguably the best car, capable of winning races and championships but not totally dominant. So for Senna, that's 1990-91. And for Verstappen, that's 2021 and 2022. It's the only times he's had that car in that category. Well, there are less races for Senna, so we got to look at that. But 14 of 32 times Senna won. Verstappen, 25 of 40 now. Senna, 14 wins out of 32. Verstappen, 25 out of 40. 62% versus 43%. He's got Senna there. Poles, of course, Senna's going to win this. 18 of 32 poles. But look at Verstappen, 19 of 43. He's not far behind at all. And actually, the best in this category was Fangio. He won 18 poles out of 29 races, 29 attempts in qualifying in that category. Fastest laps against Senna was not into that. 4 of 32. Verstappen's beat him. 12 of 41, solidly. Podiums, 24 of 32. 75% of the time, you gave Senna a car capable of winning a race, not a dominant car. He'd get it on the podium. Max Verstappen, 38 of 40. Easily the greatest, as we were just talking about. See, now you see it in the data. Easily the greatest of all time of just getting the car on the podium, or first and second. Won the title, well, Senna won both 90 and 91, and Verstappen won both 21 and 22. So let's move on to another category. Totally dominant car. Now, this is more difficult to talk about because Max has only had 9 races in a totally dominant car. Senna, 17 wins out of 32. Max, 8 of 9, 89%. Now we need more. The rest of the season, I presume they'll have a dominant car, and we'll see where he ends up. But I don't know if he's going to fall much off. That's even better than Ascari, 12 of 14. Okay, Senna on poles, 26 of 32. Yes, you give Senna a totally dominant car, he's pretty much going to get the pole every race. And that is easily, no, not easily, slightly easily the best. Ascari, 11 of 14. We needed more data there, though, of course. Back then, they didn't have many races. So 26 of 32. Verstappen, 6 of 8. He's not far behind. He's gotten 6 poles this year. Let's then look at fastest laps. Well, 6 of 32, not so great. Verstappen, 4 of 9. Not bad, kind of middle of the road there. Ascari, again, best in that category. Podiums. This is where Hamilton does well. 82 podiums out of 96 in his 96 races in a totally dominant car. Senna, 23 of 32. The worst of anybody. And I've got Vettel, Schumacher, Jim Clark, Fangio, Ascari, Verstappen. Senna, 23 of 32. But Verstappen, 9 of 9, of course, this year. 9 of 9. 100% right with Jimmy Clark. 10 of 10. Or Schumacher, 32 of 35, 91%. Ascari, 13 of 14. So he's got Senna kind of again here. He's getting them in these categories. This is the one area where Senna trumps him and trumps everyone, which is what most people would tell you just by the eye test. They said, what was the greatest thing about Senna? I said, well, he's the quickest, but also, if you put him in a crappy car, he would do something with it. There's no driver in world history I think you would want in a crappy car more than Senna, and this shows it out. Winning 14 wins in 80 races, and this isn't a crappy car. This is a car capable of winning races but not championships. So in 1985, 86, 87, 1992, and 1993, the McLaren wasn't very good. 14 times he won out of 80 races, better than everybody else. Poles, 18 of 80, 22%, better than anybody else. But in terms of Verstappen, got him by a little bit, right? 14 of 80 versus 11 of 91, very similar numbers. 18 of 80 versus 3 of 91. If Verstappen doesn't have a top car, he doesn't seem to get the pole. Fastest laps, 8 of 80, and Verstappen, 10 of 91, very similar. Podiums, 30 of 80 versus Verstappen's 46 of 90. So once again, when you talk about podium, Verstappen can get a pretty good car on the podium half the time, where Senna could only do it slightly more than a third of the time. But then you look at the championships, Senna had 2 second places in this category. No one else had second places. Schumacher had 3/3, and Verstappen has 1/3 place. So Senna gets him, or should I say pips him, in terms of statistics in a car capable of winning races but not championships. But Verstappen's got him in the totally dominant category and in a car that's capable of winning the championship, but it's not totally dominant. So if you look at all these pieces of data, just going by data, not talking eye tests, you can make a solid argument that today, especially with Max taking over Senna's 42 wins, you could make an argument, a solid argument, that Max Verstappen is better today than Ayrton Senna. But I can't be totally astounded because I told him that 8 years ago. And I told him it because I really did believe it. And I continue to send his dad a lot of this data to show where he's going. So don't think Formula One is boring right now. It's incredible. You're watching history in the making every race.